Hey, Charlie, thank you so much for joining us today and chat a little bit about your experience and sharing with my audience. And I really appreciate that. And I guess, I'm really thankful for the Simon Sinek platform. And that's where we met, I believe, in Sasha Strauss' brand strategy webinar. So I'm really glad that we maintain contact as well. And I really want to, I've been seeing a lot of the social media promotions and just really good stuff coming from your company. So I just decided to want to chat with you today.
So
So thank you
appreciate
for
it.
joining.
And it's my pleasure. So I'm happy to be here.
So I have a couple of questions. The
Okay.
first one is tell us a little bit about Charlie Saffro and your company.
Okay. Well, a little bit about me. I am a mom of three boys. I am also the founder and the current president of a recruiting firm that I started about 11 years ago. CS Recruiting is the name of our company. We recruit specifically in the supply chain, logistics, transportation sector. So we have a very specific niche, but at the end of the day, we are matchmakers for companies to find people for the right position and for people to find the right company for their career. So I've got about a 40-person team. We're in Chicago, but we work across all of North America. And we're recruiting for permanent positions, usually professionals in that supply chain transportation space. The way we explain it is we recruit for almost any role except the truck drivers themselves. So anything else that makes product move or manufacture or distribute, that's our game.
Awesome. Now, how long have you had your business?
11 years. We're coming up on our 11-year anniversary. And there was about 1 year where I was a one-woman show. So I never know if I should include that. I mean, we had a company name, a website, a logo, but it was really just me and only me for that first year until I started hiring. I brought my husband on as my first hire. And then slowly we went out and started building with some external recruits.
Now, starting as a entrepreneur, especially a woman entrepreneur, at what point did you decide to do, okay, this is it, I'm going to grow this business? Can you tell us a little bit about that journey and what you're going through at that point?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. Very hard for me to pinpoint. In fact, I actually remember I had a friend I was very close with during that time in my life. And there was one moment when she's like, how come you never told me that you started a company? And it was really that organic. I was like, I didn't even think that I needed to make that announcement because it's kind of what I've been doing and always doing. It just started to materialize into something real. So long story short, I was a recruiter at a technology company that played in the transportation industry. It was actually my husband's business. So I had a career up until our first child. He was in that business and started a company with his brother. I went to work for them after our first son, fell into a recruiter position. About 4.5 years in recruiting for that firm exclusively, they sold. And so I stayed on with the new ownership as a freelancer. At this time, I was actually pregnant with my third son. So I wasn't looking for, anything really serious. I was working on different recruiting projects and, had an opportunity to make some of my own money, which felt really good. But this was right when LinkedIn started to take off. And, I put myself out there as a logistics and supply chain recruiter, which is what I was, and just started getting attention from different companies that needed hiring support. So that's really how the business evolves. One company reached out and asked if I could help them find a salesperson. And I thought, why not? Like, this is what I do. I've just always done it for one company. And then it's really been a trickle effect. You provide good service to one company, you touch different people throughout the process, they refer you. And that's really what snowballed is, at one point I remember looking through my notes and I'm like, wait, I have 10 clients now. Like, how did that happen? And it felt like it was overnight. But really over the course of a year where I don't say no to opportunity. I think that's probably the summary is if I see opportunity, I go after it, and I couldn't walk away. I saw something there that really had potential.
Now, when did you, that sounds really amazing.
Yeah.
When did you decide that you're going to get your very first employee?
So my first employee was my husband. He sold his business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's funny. His name is Chad. So I would say the majority of people who know both of us think that CS Recruiting is his company, and everyone just goes to the default like, oh, it's the man's company, CS. When in fact it was my company, my initials. We just happen to have the same initials. But I brought Chad onto my team when things started to get real. So I'm a very good worker. I'm a producer, but I didn't know a thing about, setting up bank accounts and becoming an LLC and developing a website and, having a logo. So once things started to get from a point where this is, I can't just make an invoice on a Word document and send it at this capacity. I pulled him in. It was a good time in his career because he had been sitting out a non-compete. So he was probably going to get back into the transportation technology industry, but then this opportunity surfaced. So he, pivoted his career to focus on recruiting and really supporting me as almost like a COO as we built the business. Our second employee was our first external hire, and it was capacity. It was just a lot of work. At this time, I had my third son. So I think I had 3 kids under 4, and this business was just taking off, and there's only so much that one person can do. And that's when we made the decision, like, we need to go out and hire someone. If the plan works, this person will generate revenue, which generates cash flow. We're entirely bootstrapped. So we never went out and got a business loan, just really understood the flow of revenue and how that cycles. And, we could bring on an employee as long as they could cover themselves and prove it out. And then one employee led to 2 to 3. And we're right at 38 now with 2 new people starting in January. We'll be at 40. Thank you.
That sounds so amazing. I mean, that's such an inspirational story, especially like when I am in my own journey.
Yeah.
And, I have a lot of freelancers, and I think we talk a little bit about, how do we motivate. And like Sasha was talking a lot about, that because sometimes, especially based on past experiences, you never know, like, it's really important to have someone else to sort of like point out to you what you're doing is actually really worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because we may never really, as much as we like to, we don't always know that it's all going to work out. This business is like, there's no guarantee, right?
It's true.
And so I think that it was such an amazing platform that we both met each other on Simon Sinek's platform. And then Sasha, I still remember each time when I'm going a little down, I was like, okay, remember what Sasha said?
Right.
I'm flying that Millennium Falcon, right? Where
And
am I flying? I don't know, but we'll get there.
It's a really hard area to navigate. And I imagine any entrepreneur, any business owner, at least for their first venture, they experience this feeling where it's lonely at the top. And I recently did a podcast about, does it have to be lonely at the top when you are an entrepreneur and a business owner? And I think for a period of time it is. And in your position, who tells you you're doing a good job? Does anyone? It's sometimes a client will say this is good work, but it's not the same as getting a review from a boss or feedback from someone you report to who really understands your value and how you spend your time. And there were, probably a year or 2 where I had a lot of imposter syndrome and self-doubt, like nobody's telling me I'm doing a good job. And as a human, I go to bed and I think about all the things I should have done or could have done. I'm not like praising myself for all the things I actually did. But what I realized recently is it doesn't have to be that way. And it is really in your hands to build out a support system so you feel like you've got, more people who have stake in the business with you, whether they're employees, whether it's a friend, whether it's a therapist or a career coach. You need support, and there's no way to do it alone and sustain it. It gets too lonely. Like, you really need to have some support around you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really quite amazing to have someone. I mean, I consider you part of my support system
Yeah.
now, and thank you so much for taking time, to basically chat with me about this, because you're right. It's like, especially when my audience, my clients are in the legal industry.
Mhm.
So my mindset in the past I've been in the legal industry for about 25 years.
Wow.
And so I can get pretty paranoid, because you've seen a lot.
Yeah.
And so I feel that a lot of time there was a lot more tension between the wanting to go after the opportunity and the risk averse
Uh-huh.
mindset, because it's like that's what you do. It's like, okay, what about the liability? Have you mitigating all your risks? Have you done this? Have you done that? But the thing is that if you don't go after it, when are you going to get your clients?
Right.
And so it's really a difficult balance, and having the opportunity to kind of talk to different entrepreneurs, especially women.
Yeah.
And I think that we go through a lot of experiences that a lot of time that other people, men, and don't necessarily experience. So that is definitely unique, and I'm really thankful that we have this opportunity to kind of connect.
Yeah.
Now, let's go fast forward. We are in December now. So what do you consider the most important asset of your company? And I think that, and how do you, and I think that you already know that it's basically our people, right?
Mhm.
And what do you do that you think that is unique to you as the founder of your company,
Mhm.
um, to make sure that your employees and your team actually feel valued?
It's such an important question, and it's been an evolution for us. This is the systems, the tactics, the processes, the philosophies we have in place today have been built over the years, and many of them, reactively built, where we saw an issue and identified a need for a solution, and part of that solution was around employee engagement or employee satisfaction, and we would go and find a tool or put a new process in place. So quick side story about my personal evolution as a leader. For the first 8 years that I ran the business, and we had employees, and I was very involved in hiring, but I was never a manager, and I really enjoyed being an employee at my own company. And I knew that's my spot, and I admitted it, and I enjoyed it. So let me just do my work, let me produce revenue, let me bring business in. But if you need me to hold my team accountable or manage people, I could train people, but I really was not set out to be a manager, and I don't have those skills. So I really led the company with my husband, and we had a COO title, another male, for about 6 years. And then right before the pandemic hit, they both left the company. My husband decided to take another path, and that was mutual and planned. Our COO resigned very unexpectedly, and I found myself in a position where I had to now become the leader of my own company. And I'd say the biggest difference that our people feel is just attention and recognition and appreciation. And that is what leadership means to me. So for the past 2 years that I've truly embraced a president title and being a leader and getting myself out of the trenches, I'm all focused on the people. The hardest lesson for me has been making that transition from the client is always right, the customer, is always the paying customer is right, to they're not always right. And my people are more important than a client. And so that's been something that I've worked really hard at. And it's, saying no to clients and really knowing our value and not working with a client that we don't respect or doesn't respect us. And that comes from my team members. It comes from employees saying, I don't feel leadership support. This client's verbally abusive and we continue to work with him for what? For money? And that's where I've really inserted myself and protect my team, make them feel safe. But one-on-one reviews, we've got an employee engagement survey, we've got different events that we host to keep that connection, internal newsletters, just continuous support and applause to make sure people feel valued. Everything we just talked about, I'm now responsible for making other people feel that. And when they feel it, they work harder. It's proven.
Yeah, you gotta help people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not, I think sometimes I think there's definitely a difference between manager versus leader.
Yeah.
And I come from a managerial background. So a lot of the time it's really I always try to remember that you have to manage the processes, but not the people.
Right.
But it's really super hard when you come with deadlines that are very could be very costly. And so I'm really fortunate that I have the opportunity to start a company of my own and do the things that I want to do and start my own path. And so with that, I wanted to thank you and for your time, and thank you so much. And I wish you happy holidays and wish the CS recruiting team great success in 2022 and the years to come.